Finance Committee meeting to order, April 5th, 2018, 9 a.m. May I call the roll, please?
Ms. Haggard?
Yes.
Alt?
Here.
Bills? Curtis?
Here.
Johnson? Yes. Anderson?
Present. One. We have a motion to approve the agenda. So moved. Bills. Second. Mike Taggart, second. Any questions on the agenda? Not. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public comments. Seeing no public comments, go to liability and general insurance update. Greg Stephan, please.
Yeah, just talked with Sheriff. The squad car that hit the deer is back in service and things went smoothly. We are coordinating with Loss Control to get them out. What other department heads would you like them to meet with other than Sheriff? Do you have any in particular that...
Highway.
Highway? And who's the contact there?
Joel Moore.
Okay, I'll take it for their call. Yep. But yeah, they're anxious to get out and get moving with that, so we'll get that rolling for you guys. And anything else that we can do, let us know.
Thanks, sir.
All right, have a good one.
Susie, group insurance.
Things have been quiet on our end, which is a good thing. It means things are rolling well. That's really all I have. No updates at this time.
Questions for
Any
Susie?
questions? No? All right.
Thanks
Have
for
a good
coming.
day.
Department head reports. Mindy?
I don't have anything, Carl.
Dee?
I don't have anything at this time.
Lisa?
The only thing I have is that in tax I reported we were waiting on the final multiplier, and I thought that it would be a couple of weeks and then we got it the next day. But I did contact Steve from DebNet, our company, that we work with, and he was not able to move us up on the schedule. He still won't be able to come until the 18th of April, and there's really nothing we can do, nothing he wants us to do until he comes back. But he still assures me we're fine, we're on track.
That? Eric?
Nothing to report, except for, just for informational purposes, throughout Iroquois County, through different, whatever governmental agencies, whether that's a municipality or the county itself or a township, with the flooding disaster, we've come to a total cost of $674,600.62. These are costs accrued by damage or costs that come up with debris removal or emergency protective measures. That's just informational purposes, just let you know what a disaster sometimes costs.
Alrighty. Sheriff?
Yeah, a few things. Squad car is fixed. I had a retirement February 5th, I believe it was. I hired a lateral transfer on the 16th of February. He has completed all of his field training and is on his own, so we only had a few weeks of having some extra overtime in the patrol side of it. I am going to be in the process of testing to establish a list. I have to have a hiring list available all the time, so the last time we did it was 2016. So I will be doing that in May. It consists of a written or a physical agility test, a written, and then an interview with the Merit Commission. So that will be going on this summer. I briefly spoke to Judicial yesterday. I wanted to hand out a thing for you all. I know policy and procedure talked about salaries for the elected officials for the next 4 years. I've come up with one here. The first page there just shows the department heads, whether they're appointed or elected.
does not have the state's attorney or the highway engineer, because I believe there's some kind of state formula that goes into those two salary determinations. So the others shows what the department head or elected official and then a senior employee or a chief deputy makes. The sheriff's position has fallen behind due to the salary freeze that happened from 2010 to 2014. Had the normal raise occurred over those 4 years, we wouldn't be in this position. The second page shows what a sergeant and a lieutenant will make over the next 4 years, starting December 1 of 18, based on their FOP contract. And I plugged a number in there to show the 2% for the sheriff's salary, what that would show, and if they were to go that route, at the end of the 4 years, instead of an $8,000 difference between the top paid employee at the sheriff's office and the sheriff, it would be a $10,000 difference. So it's food for thought. I know the full board will be deciding on it. Sounds like possibly this next board meeting next Tuesday. There was, I know, information that policy looked at concerning there were some sheriffs. There were 2 sheriffs, I think, actually in the group they chose that were making less than a senior employee or a lieutenant. I've talked to both sheriffs, one county, Lee County, they have not set his salary for the next 4 years. LaSalle County, however, has, and what he's going to get is going to be $2,500 a year, plus they're creating the Director of Public Safety where they're giving him $1,500 on top of that, so he'll get a $4,000 a year raise for the next 4 years, which he said will alleviate that problem of the sheriff not making or making less than what an employee does. Lee County, I'm not for sure what they're doing because they're going to decide in May on their salaries. So again, this is something that I think needs to be addressed because as you look at it in the future, who's going to be sheriff, who's going to want to run for sheriff, and if this course stays this way to where every 4 years the sheriff has fallen $2,000 behind the employees that they supervise, I don't think there's going to be much incentive for someone within the ranks to come up and do a good job as being sheriff, or someone from the outside that is looking at it when, you know, ultimately what happens in these offices, whether you're appointed or elected, falls upon the department head or the elected official. And I don't know if that's going to affect anything in the future of any good candidates wanting to come forward to take on a position that they're behind the 8 ball, so to speak. So and I know it's not on the agenda, you folks can't take action, if you're looking for my recommendation or what I would wish, that first year of the next term, it gets made up, that you make up to where the sheriff is paid, and actually all it would be, a lieutenant I think is going to $79,000 something next year, December 1. If you make up to where it's just above that, and then their increase each year is I think around $1,800 or $1,900 a year. And so once you make it up, if you do the traditional $2,000 a year, which the sheriff has gotten in the past, when sheriffs prior to me got raises, it was usually that $1,500 or $2,000 a year increase, which kept them above it. That would be my recommendation, but it's solely on the board's discretion. But I think the plan that policy has right now, it's gonna continue to widen that gap between the sheriff and, I mean, at some point the sergeants are actually 2020, actually 2019, the sergeants would then move it past the sheriff with the raises they get and what the policy is proposing. So again, it's food for thought. I know you can't take any action on it, but if anyone has any questions.
Questions from the committee?
Interesting information.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we talked about it last time, that maybe having Lisa help us understand some of that, the fees or whatever, Lisa Hines, remember we were off $100,000 on the budget or projections or whatever from what we had budgeted on the, what was it, fees and fines or something like that?
Circuit clerk fees. I didn't bring that with
Not
me.
that there's anything you can probably do about it, but just
No.
to understand it better.
As far as, I mean, it's pretty much a crapshoot what I put down and what we collect. You know, people, like Derek said, they're not writing as many traffic tickets. However, people just, they're not paying. We've turned them over to collections, and yeah, they may get $20, $30 out of them a month, but, and also, I mean, like, between state's attorney, judges, and everything, they have to enforce it. I only collect it. So, I mean, that's a lot of it, but, I mean, I can't explain why. People just aren't paying.
But I think
If you, I mean, you can come over and look at everything that we have and what we take in a month and what we pay out. Kinda, it gives you a little bit better idea of what we do.
I think the concern we talked about is just that
Right, I mean, the issue...
we got a budget gap somewhere, and it's,
Right.
like I said.
Right, I mean, what we ended up looking at year-end, 2017 year-end, I think we were $100,000 off the prior year, and it's looking like this year will be another 100 off the 100 we are off in 17. So, not that we're off our budget, I mean, that's one issue, but you've been lowering your budget, so to match the trend. But now we're even below that. Every year it's less and less.
Yeah. This month, I mean, we were $23,000 more, you know, than last month. Tax time, I'm sure people are getting their income tax refunds. We did go with the comptroller's office now, that if anybody, when they pay their fines and fees, if they owe money and they're not paying us, and they're getting a tax refund, that will come to us. So they're doing testing right now for it, so hopefully that might help a little bit too, but there's only so much you can do.
Okay. Bob,
Yes, sir.
you got anything for us? Nothing?
Y'all, Leslie, we got our one already, so didn't think we were gonna get it for another week or so, but it came on Tuesday night, so I was really surprised, so Lisa's probably already informed you of that.
Anita?
I got a letter from the IRS this week. Remember in, I think, December, January, I told you they had fined us $184,000 on our 1095s, which has to do with the Affordable Care Act. And I had written a letter opposing it, and I got a letter this week saying they agree and the fine is eliminated. So that's taken care of. So, in 60 days, which is pretty good for them.
Okay. Discuss funding for arbitration. Yeah,
You're looking at me?
there isn't any
Okay.
for the liability. The award.
Where did I put? I ran copies. Here they are. I did run copies of the public safety tax trial balance, so you can see where we're at with that right now. We have $211,000 in that account right now. If you look at the fiscal 18 deposits that I kind of just copied and pasted in below there. We've gotten 147 or so thousand since December 1st. So we're still averaging about 35,000 a month. If you take that times another 8 months of receipts, it would give us an extra 280,000 in revenue in FY18. Add that to the 211, and we're at about $491,000 estimate in the public safety tax fund at 11/30/18. What we need, this is a rough estimate. I haven't done any final numbers and won't do that until we get kind of closer to where we have the contract approved. Doggone it. Did I not bring that with me?
I got one.
The,
335.
yeah, if you look at the back pay of 247, oh, here it is. 247 on the, where the back pay is through December 31st for all the employees that would be covered by this bargaining unit. That was through December 31st. The estimate increase for FY18 on those salaries would be an extra 87,000. So in total, to cover all of FY18 and all the back pay, we would need about, at this point, $345,000. Cash-wise, you'll have 491 in public safety. We have 50,000 budgeted in contingent in the general fund, which could pick up part of it if you wanted to do that. But really, that's the only places you've got to look.
Is there any, where are they at with the contract? Or
Yes, I heard from Dave Hibben maybe midweek last week. He had gotten the draft from Jeff Burke, that's the labor attorney, actually quite early on after the ruling, like in January, and had done nothing with it. So after last month's meeting where the board voted to draft it, it essentially was already drafted. And he went through it 2 weekends ago and got back to me that following Monday and said he found about a half a dozen wording issues that he was sending back to Burke. So that's where it's at right now. He hasn't gotten it back. So I would think within the next month we should have the draft contract to approve.
payable upon signatures? Is that?
I would expect, yes.
So we got 350,000 actual payroll going out there.
Right.
But how about the other issues that we deal with payroll, with workers' comp insurance,
Well,
retirement issues, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah, blah.
right, that'll all, I mean, those funds are, I mean, retirement, you would have IMRF, increased Social Security, and workers' comp. So in each case,
The retirement.
right, in each case, in all likelihood, what will happen is we will go over our budget this fiscal year. So we're going to have to do something to it. The cash is not a problem. Each one of those funds,
Those for funding those particular issues.
right, those, what we call zero levy funds. Remember, it's been our practice to have
Cushion.
a year and a half to 2 years, between 1 and 2 years in cash in those funds at all times. And we're very good at where we're at with those. So we will have the cash in those funds. We'll have to address, because we'll have to address it no matter where we do this, is the budget. So we'll have to adjust the budget for those funds. But yeah, the cash in those funds is available.
So we'll be losing our cushion there, we'll have to make some adjustments there then.
Probably at next, what will happen at budget time is, remember at budget and levy time, how I estimate what the ending cash will be? We'll go through that practice again, and yeah, there could be a need to increase the levy next month to shore those up.
Mr. Chair.
next year, sorry.
Any other ideas?
No, I just.
What about the other,
Picture painted.
I mean, it sounds like our only option on our own funds is to come out of public safety, but what about Watsika and all the villages and all this stuff? I mean, we share in all the other costs, is there?
She's got that down here, don't you?
No.
Other government, other government.
Oh, this is just the trial balance, and this is just the income.
Yeah,
That's just,
he's got a good question anyway, what, do they have it?
this is just the receivable at year end. If you look on the trial balance, there's a due from other governments. What that is my year end accrual for the revenue that wasn't received by year end.
Oh, okay.
So if you look here, these first three payments, that was September, October, November. What's the total there? 104, 108. And I accrued 104 at year end. That's what that is.
Okay.
It's not cash in the bank.
Oh, I see.
It's just the receivable at year end to accrue those first three payments.
And did they, remind me, did they all sign the contracts from December-ish?
Yes, everyone is signed.
Everyone signed it.
Yes.
So they're, and paying, or have
Oh,
paid.
yeah. Oh, my gosh. Much, much better than prior years, actually.
It'd be nice if we could go back and ask them for more, but for some reason we fought to have them as our employees. And they're our employees, so.
No language in the contract.
There isn't, I did take a look at that last month, after last month, Amanda and I pulled out one, because I thought we had put something in there, but no, there's nothing in there.
So the ongoing $90,000 a year that this will cost us, maybe we can renegotiate it in the new contracts, but we're probably
Not
not
by
in a good
losing
position,
out.
not in a good position for the old stuff, huh?
Right. Right, those contracts are through November 30th of this year.
When does that whole process begin then? To start signing them back on? I know it was painful.
Depends on the year. When do we do that, like September, October? Sheriff helped with that, was that about right, Sheriff?
They did get, I think everyone, all of the fire protection districts and the municipal police departments, I believe got like about a 30% reduction this year. However, it's not a new concept at all what we do with our dispatch center. We're surrounded by counties that do the same thing. Most of the state does it where the dispatchers are the employees of one entity and that entity bills out for services. So, for example, Metcad down in Champaign, I believe those dispatchers are still City of Champaign employees. The dispatch center is located in Urbana, but they bill out all of the municipalities, the fire departments, the local police departments, even the sheriff, because they're not the sheriff's employees and it's not the sheriff's equipment, pays into it, which obviously is a bigger area, but I think last time I talked to Sheriff Walsh, I think his share was about $600,000 that he put towards it for dispatching fees. Now, if he decides that he doesn't want to pay that $600,000, he's got to figure out a way to do his own dispatching. But it's not a new concept, and I know there's been a lot of talk over the years about whether it's legal or not to do it. It is. There's intergovernment agreements between government entities, so you can do it, and there's a cost to it, and I know nobody likes talking about the cost, but they want to make sure that, they want someone showing up when they dial 911.
Again, that can be addressed going forward, but. So, we're looking at next month, possibly.
Yeah, probably. So at that point, we're gonna have to make a decision and have a motion on where it will be paid from, and then to adjust the budget as well before we can pay it out.
Any other ideas, discussions on this?
No, I think so. Yeah, I have to come out with public safety. It's kind of ironic that, you know what, they made the most noise in selling the referendum originally, and then when you look at the arbitration ruling, there's a little bit of note in there saying, well, gee, you got the money. And so, yeah.
Timing's everything.
Mhm.
Well, we can discuss it at the full board too. Anybody have a better idea, but I don't think it's out there.
I don't think we got another choice. One halfway related thing, we talked, Charlie, you were out there, but, and it's not exactly this, but it's somewhat related. What about these grants? I'm just thinking of the budget longer term for next year and the years going forward. And now we have this incremental labor costs for indefinitely. And we talked with Eric about getting the grants and things for all that equipment and things. Has the 911 board talked with him any at all about kind of pushing harder on that, or?
We haven't talked about it yet. We have ID coming up in 2 weeks.
Okay. One thing, back when we were dealing with the budget, 9 months ago, 6 months ago now, Anita and I think Kyle, you were there, I don't know, it doesn't matter, but we talked with the state police, and there was a lot of money, $200 and some thousand that was spent on the upgrade of equipment and this, when NIDA was still here, and that individual from the state police indicated, well, you should be able to get grants to cover all that money. And so I guess the county, or whatever, that organization at least had spent a lot of money on updating equipment. Right. And I think you did have to spend the money and then you could get the grants to reimburse you, but I guess I would think it would be a high priority to have him, in my opinion, working on getting the grants and getting the money back for the county if it's out there just sitting. So
I think he's working on some, but I don't know about it.
I think it would be good if we could, I know that's more you guys' issue on that board, but I think it's kind of a priority from my perspective.
County expense actually, yes.
Yeah, but yeah, so I think if you could help push that as the chairman of that board, it would be beneficial to the taxpayers.
I have to sign some papers on some things, I think was pre that, but related to it.
Any other discussion on the funding for arbitration? Sheriff?
Just briefly, that $180,000 that ETSB spent, I've got to contact the statewide coordinator, Cindy Barella Briel, I think is her name, who I talked with when I was kind of helping out. I'll touch base with Eric after the meeting. She was the one that told me, even though we had already spent the funds up front, to apply for it and they can reimburse us. The other thing is there is a sunset on the increased 911 fees, which is 2020, I think July 1 of 2020. However, that doesn't mean that they're going to go away. Everybody I've been talking to, and again, that's a year and a half away, but has said that with as much complaining that 911 centers have done to Springfield about the lack of funds now, this is a shot in the arm, and that they don't anticipate it's going to end at the sunset, that it'll be extended again like a lot of programs that the state does. So there's also that likelihood, not that you want to solely count on that added revenue, but it could be there for longer than just the 3 years we're looking at.
Anything else? Next up, review of financial policies. Finance Director, do you have anything for that one?
No.
When they've been reviewed. Historic cash trends.
I guess the question is, how do you want to move forward? Do we want hard copies distributed to discuss in these finance meetings moving forward so that we can get somewhere. Clearly, emailing them hasn't gotten us anywhere, but say, go through them one by one. Do you want to do that? Do you not want to do that? What does this committee want to move forward? I had asked for feedback and I haven't gotten any feedback, so
Financial policies?
the finance policies that were emailed to everyone,
That was a couple months ago.
yeah.
I think last meeting we talked, and the two big pieces were Joel needed to have some input on his, whatever portion of it, and it sounded, I remember right at the board meeting, he said he was okay with what you had already proposed, so I think we're okay on that.
Oh, as far as the.
And then I think there's some stuff in these that we need some input, or we needed the input from you guys, make sure it was
It was just
cool.
language changes, I
Yeah.
gave those to Anita,
Okay,
on a hard copy, crossed out in pencil, written in,
all right, well, I guess that was, I think what we talked about last month was,
And see, the highway
Getting those
department
issues
sort of
resolved
had to
or
make
whatever.
adjustments to keep the motor fuel tax, because everything they do is primarily touched by federal and state government in their own audits, to just with the highway department.
but it sounded like those were the two biggest issues, or not issues, but things that we need to make sure we are straight on, I think is what you were, the discussion we had last month there. But, and then, assuming all those are okay with each of those from the grants and all those kind of things, then, yeah, maybe we need to just review it as a group and get it over with.
Right.
We have to revisit this on the agenda for next month, so it may take a little bit longer. Plan accordingly. Historic cash trend for various entities. Like this month?
No.
Okay, that just stays on there.
Yep.
Will be next, or 2 months?
2 months from now was last month.
Everybody should have a list of their claims. Stricter than normal.
You have zoning and planning claims because there won't be a meeting tomorrow, so those are included. There's also a few utilities that came in after the management meeting.
Are there any questions on the claims? Take another minute if you like.
Just the farm?
Yeah.
And that they should be paid back, right?
Right. The fertilizer bill for the farm came in, I forgot that one. It came in after management, Sherry and Charlie. So I sent Lyle an email and asked him if he wanted me to run it through here or wait a month because it's due the 20th. I didn't hear back from him, so I just ran it through. But right, what ends up happening is when it's paid, then I send a letter to the tenant and they reimburse us for that.
That was what they bid, I mean, all the numbers.
Right, all the numbers tied, actually it's to the penny of what they bid, so.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Move to approve it.
Motion to approve by Mr. McTaggart. Charlie Alt seconds it. Any questions? May I call the roll, please?
McTaggart,
Yes.
Alt, Bills,
Yes.
Curtis, Johnson, Anderson.
Yes. That motion passes. Any old business for the finance committee? Any new business to come before the finance committee? Motion to adjourn. Charlie moves, is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. McTaggart. All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.